Welcome to another episode of the Pokemon Battle Frontier Research Lab. In this episode, we have a pretty requested team composition that revolves around using the starter Pokemon in the Kanto region. There will be follow-on episodes with the Johto and Hoenn starters, so stick around for that. But for this episode, we wanted to make a team comp around Charizard, Blastoise, and Venusaur. The facility I decided to take this team into was the Battle Dome. I just really love the Battle Dome. I mean, the tower is also fun too, but the dome is really my favorite. So kind of going into the team design, I obviously knew the Pokemon that we had to use, so I kind of started thinking about at least moves or the role of each Pokemon that it would have on the team. So we'll start off with Blastoise. One thing I immediately knew that I wanted on this Pokemon was Surf and Ice Beam, just because it's pretty powerful in the Frontier. And also we're going to get that additional stab boost from Blastoise being a water type. Also, if we get to Torrent range, that will do even more damage. I wasn't entirely sure what to do with Blastoise because I didn't want to make it like tanky, but also I wanted to make it hit hard. But there were so many good moves Blastoise can learn. Diving into some of the moves Blastoise can learn, I mean, we got things besides Ice Beam and Surf. We got things like Hydro Pump, Skull Bash. We get Focus Punch, even like Blizzard, Iron Tail, Earthquake, Brick Break, even things like Counter, Mega Kick. There's just so many good moves, even Mirror Coat. Blastoise can learn so many different moves, so it was pretty difficult in deciding what I really wanted. So I ended up kind of thinking about Charizard and Venusaur along with Blastoise, but I kind of came to the conclusion that I want Blastoise just to have super powerful moves on it. Blastoise is already kind of bulky with 100 base defense and 105 base special defense, and I kind of figured that let's just make it hit really hard. So I decided to run Surf, Earthquake, Ice Beam, and Brick Break. And for the EVs, I just decided to give it all max and special attack and attack. And then I threw a little bit more in HP. But the idea with this is I kind of just, again, wanted to hit really hard. I gave it the hardy nature as well, just so I don't kind of take away from any stats. Blastoise overall just seemed pretty awesome. Also, I'm just looking at Blastoise right now. What a cool Pokemon. He got cannons out of his back. But yeah, I just figured Blastoise has a lot of good moves. It's already kind of bulky. I want to see how hard it can actually hit. I gave it to Shell Bow. I wasn't too sure what to do with this. So I was thinking Scope Lens or Shell Bow. I really wanted to give it like the leftovers. Although now I'm thinking about it, that probably wasn't a good choice to begin with, but that was my initial thought. But the Shell Bow, I figured if we're going to be getting there and hitting moves, we're probably going to be going second or hitting second anyway, because we're not that fast. Being able to heal a little bit seemed to be pretty important. But the Scope Lens was also a pretty heavy contender. Let's move on to Charizard. So there were a lot of different things we could have done with Charizard. I ended up building two of them. One of them was kind of focused on like overheat and using that white herb just because it seemed pretty powerful. There's also some builds you could do with like the substitute, and then you could proc the Salac Berry at low health. So you're getting additional speed, then you're using that Blaze ability to even do more damage with your fire moves. Then you can also run Sunny Day, things like that, and you get hit with your fire moves really powerful. Charizard definitely has a lot of cool things to explore. However, after thinking about it for a good amount of time, I really wanted Charizard regardless. I wanted to have a fire move because just having access to destroying things like Skarmory and Scizor is just really powerful. And obviously other Pokemon as well, but just having a fire move was pretty important. So Flamethrower and Fire Blast were the ones that came to mind, but Fire Blast, even though it does more damage, having it be a little bit less consistent is not something I like, so I went with Flamethrower. I really do enjoy putting Dragon Dance on Pokemon that can learn it. Dragon Dance, or Charizard can learn Dragon Dance, so definitely wanted to try it in this build. And then I wanted to pick two other physical attacking moves to kind of pair with Dragon Dance. I guess we could have went with one, then used something like Rest to kind of heal back up. Charizard just seemed kind of like squishy to begin with. So I didn't really want it to be in the fight too long, especially if we're going to be targeting the Battle Dome. I wanted to maybe set one or two Dragon Dances up and just swing in and do a lot of damage. So the two final moves I decided to go with were Aerial Ace and Earthquake. Aerial Ace is great. It doesn't miss, and it's stab on Charizard. And Earthquake is just all around a really powerful physical attacking move. This does overlap with the Blastoise I decided to use, but at the same time, it's just a good move to have in general. There are obviously some other moves I was considering. You know, you got things like Brick Break, even again, Iron Tail, even Double Edge and Rock Slide. But I just figured these moves are probably the best. I went with an Adamant Nature because I wanted this to hit very hard. It does kind of conflict with the fact that we have Flamethrower, but it's not really the end of the world because in the situations we're using Flamethrower, it's probably going to be very effective anyway. So getting a little reduction in the special attack to me wasn't like that big of a concern. For the IVs, I did 31 in every stat, and for the EVs, I did max in physical attack and a split between HP and speed. There's some argument to be made to go fully in speed. There's some argument to be made to go fully in HP. Kind of depends on personal preference and kind of what you're targeting. I didn't run any calcs on this, but I figured that if we did a nice split, at least in half, between the HP and speed, if we're able to get one Dragon Dance off, we're still going to be able to outspeed a lot of Pokemon, but also adding a little bit more into the, or investing more into the HP stat just seemed to be kind of wise. It's kind of hard to justify like fully investing into speed when I know I have something like Dragon Dance. Again, there are other builds you could do if you want to go like some other speed boosting nature and then like super prioritize. Again, there's a lot of things you could do, but I think a split between the HP and speed seemed to be pretty wise. And again, maybe we can fine tune the speed investment to target specific Pokemon, but for this I wanted to generalize it a little bit. For the item, I gave it a Lumberry because I really don't like getting crippled by things like Thunder Wave, like Confuse Ray, really anything like that. And especially if I'm setting up with a Dragon Dance or two, usually this comes in very handy, at least from like the matches that I've done in the past. Moving on to Venusaur, this was probably like the easier Pokemon to build. Looking back, I might have actually built this one first because I had a better idea of what I wanted to do, but essentially, I like the idea of making a tanky Venusaur, setting up with some Leech Seeds, and then just sitting on it. So with the moveset, I went with Leech Seed, Toxic, Double Team, and Protect. Leech Seed and Toxic are going to be the main damage dealers, while Protect and Double Team are there to make Venusaur basically unkillable. This is also really good because we're running the leftovers. So if we have Leech Seed set up and we hit a Protect, man, we're healing for so much. Toxic's pretty standard, and then again, the Double Team, you could also go like things like Substitute, but I wanted to test out the Double Team in this. I didn't really want to lose too much health if I didn't have to. I went with a Calm Nature, which increases my special defense and lowers my attack. Wasn't really doing too much in the attack anyway, but the boost in special defense is kind of nice because Venusaur already has a pretty high special defense, so getting this extra boost is nice. And also, Ice and Fire are super effective against us, which is kind of concerning. One thing though is Flying is also super effective, and Aerial Ace is a pretty potent move, especially if we're running things like Double Team. So it just kind of depends on the trade-offs that we want there. For the IVs, we have 31 in everything. For the EVs, I did max in HP and a split between defense and special defense. Again, maybe if we're going to nature that boosts special defense, and we know that moves like Aerial Ace exist and will hurt our team, or especially Venusaur, maybe there's a argument to be made to have more EVs in defense, but again, depends what you want to do. So kind of like a general overview of the team. Blastoise is going to be this mixed attacker. It's going to be able to do a lot of damage to like a wide variety of different Pokemon. And then Charizard is going to be mostly our physical attacker, but we got that fire move to kind of help us in some situations. And the Venusaur is a lot more tanky. We need to set up some more, but it's a more dependable Pokemon if we need to either absorb some damage or stall out some moves. There's only one overlapping weakness between all these Pokemon, and that is Electric, which is between Charizard and Blastoise. Although there's only one technically weakness between the team, or different Pokemon on the team, like a water Pokemon that knows ice moves are also pretty powerful because it's going to affect Charizard as well as Venusaur. So going into this build, there's already some Pokemon that I had in mind that were going to be kind of annoying to deal with. But going into the actual matches, I did a total of 10 runs, and the highest, I guess, run technically was 8, so I didn't actually get to the gold medal. When I got to round 5, I actually decided to switch up some of the team, which we'll get to in a little bit. But going to the first couple rounds, we'll just go over the results. So the first run with this team, I got to round 8, and I lost to a Regirock exploding, and then there was a Snorlax that I just couldn't defeat. I was already noticing that Blastoise was pretty good against Tucker because we have Ice Beam, and we could pretty much just handle the Swampert with Venusaur. But Blastoise, really powerful against Silver Tucker. On round 2, I only got to 5, so I didn't get very far. Also, probably got to backtrack a little bit. All these rounds that I'm talking about, or the runs I'm talking about, I start from 4, because if we beat 4, then that's where Tucker Silver is. So we're able to bypass these earlier rounds to kind of focus on how the team performs, like with more meat, I guess, of the Battle Frontier. So in the second run, I only got to 5. I ended up gambling on this Blastoise decision, and then I lost to an Armaldo that just destroyed Charizard because of the rock moves. Charizard, I always kind of forget, is not like the most tanky Pokemon, and that 4 times rock weakness really hurts, so something definitely got to be careful of. One of the things too, just generally speaking about these teams and like when I play them, is I usually have a certain play style. Like I'm not perfect at adapting to every single Pokemon and team composition, so it usually takes me a little bit to kind of almost get up to speed with the team and how to play it and how to learn it. So in the beginning, usually I do make some mistakes or I make some miscalculations in some of my decisions, which do cost me some of the matches, but it's all part of the fun and learning process. At the end of the day, that's kind of what it's about. Going to the third run, I only got to round 4, so yeah, I only won 1 match. One single match. This Dodrio had Tri Attack, and it froze my Blastoise, and then it ended up critting my Charizard, so wasn't really much I could do. On the 4th run, I got to round 7. I ended up losing to a Typhlosion, and it had like 1 HP, so I forgot exactly what Pokemon I had first, probably Blastoise, but I had the Venusaur out, and it just couldn't get that final tick, which was a little sad. Looking in hindsight, there might have been like another thing I could have done to maybe mitigate that or do a little bit more damage, but how was I really going to know it was going to be that much damage that I needed? One thing I already noticed with 4 runs in was that I never use Earthquake or Brick Break, or I rarely use Earthquake and Brick Break on Blastoise. So I was kind of already thinking of 2 other moves that I could probably substitute with this, and I was kind of thinking if we had an electric move, that'd be great. Maybe Hidden Power Electric. Seismic Toss was another move I was considering. Maybe go a little bit more bulkier on the Blastoise. And Haze and Mirror Coat were other pretty good options. But I kind of just figured that I was wasting not only the move slots on Blastoise with Earthquake and Brick Break, but I was also wasting the EV investments, which probably is just not optimal. On the 5th run, I got to round 5, so again, not very high. This Whiscash ended up hitting Fissure, which was pretty defeating. And then I got into like this 10-minute stall battle with it, and I thought it was out of Fissures. It was using Sleep Talk, so it was using some of the Fissures with that too, but I just wasn't able to really defeat it. And I thought it was done again with the Fissures, so I wasn't using Protect as much as I probably should have, but it still had one Fissure in the chamber and it ended up killing me. So the Wishcashing Fissure, or the Fissure Wishcashes, however you want to put it, they're still out there and they're hitting them hard. So it just felt a little unfortunate there. One thing I was noting too is I really, even with like increased speed on the emulator, I really dislike these stall battles. It just, I don't know, it just feels defeating. I don't really know how to explain it. It's just not my type of playstyle. Like I kind of want to go in there and just slap something in the face really hard. Maybe I win, maybe I lose, but at least the match is over. And so the Venusaur with the whole Leech Seed thing, again, I like it. I love that Leech Seed move. It just felt like it was too much stall that I was like requiring or needed with that Venusaur. So considering the thoughts on Venusaur as well as Blastoise, I wanted to switch some things up moving on after the 5 matches. Charizard felt really good. I didn't want anything additional on it. The Flamethrower came in handy, and the 2 moves with the Dragon Dance just felt good, especially the Lumberry. Again, just felt like it was not perfect, but it was good for the team. Going to Blastoise, I ended up removing Earthquake and Brick Break, and instead I put Hidden Power Electric, and I actually put Yawn on this Pokemon. Some other moves I was looking at were Haze, Seismic Toss, Protect, and I guess that was really it, other than the moves I already selected. But I didn't want to go Toxic Protect, because again, I was kind of feeling like maybe I was stalling too much. And again, Blastoise is pretty bulky, but I wanted to be more of like a special attacker and like a sweeper as opposed to something that kind of wants to set up a little bit. The Hidden Power Electric felt nice because I wanted something to be able to better hit or more appropriately hit the water types. The water types are pretty powerful, again, because it's going to affect or it's going to hurt Charizard and Venusaur with ice moves. And Blastoise didn't really have an answer to kind of doing enough damage to the water types. And I picked Yawn because I wanted something where it kind of just makes sense when you think about it, because we have Charizard and Blastoise. Sorry, Charizard and Venusaur. And sometimes we're going to want to switch. Yawn is always going to hit, and once the Pokemon is asleep, it allows us to switch either into Venusaur or Charizard, maybe set up a Dragon Dance on Charizard or the Leech Seed on Venusaur. And it kind of just gives us a little bit more, I guess, control over the game and the switch that we want to go into. Again, it's not like a perfect move, but it just kind of seemed fitting for a little bit more utility on the team where it just seemed appropriate and I wanted to try it out. We also did change around the nature. I went with from a hardy nature to a modest nature. Again, kind of double downing on the special attack. So for the IVs, we actually reduced one in special attack to get that electric, that base 70 electric H or hidden power. And then I moved the 252 EVs from attack to HP, and then I put the remainder in speed. Also for the item, instead of the shell bell, I decided to go with the scope lens. Their critting in the frontier just seems really nice. I know it's not like a perfect, I know it doesn't hit as often as probably as you want it to, and it is a little bit of luck. But there's a lot of situations where Pokemon try setting up, they get pretty bulky, and if we just get a crit in, that's pretty much the damage that we need. So I think the critical attacks, if we do get them, especially having an increased chance on them, could be pretty powerful. And I did already see that in some situations. Again, it is kind of luck, but sometimes you need that little bit of luck to get you, where you need to go. The shell bell felt good, where we're gaining some health here and there, but it just felt like I'm not a big shell bell fan. It just doesn't feel like it does enough. Moving on to the Venusaur, I decided to keep the nature, IVs, and EVs all the same. And the only thing I wanted to really change was the moves. I wasn't really a fan of just like setting up with the Leech Seed, Double Team, Toxic. It just dragged things on. And I felt like Venusaur had some other potential too, because it can Giga Drain and Sludge Bomb. And because it's a grass and poison type, we're getting that stab as well. Now I know the Calm Nature does conflict with the Sludge Bomb because Sludge Bomb is physical attacking. It is what it is. Again, we're not gonna be able to do everything we want to do, but I still want it to be a little bit more bulky. So their new moveset, Leech Seed, Giga Drain, Protect, and Sludge Bomb. The Leech Seed Protect with the Leftovers combo is still going to be able to kind of stall, maybe not stall, but prolong certain fights and heal up and make Venusaur annoying. But the Giga Drain and Sludge Bomb are going to allow us to do more damage, so we're not over-reliant on the Leech Seed and Toxic. And Giga Drain is really powerful against a lot of the water types, which again, this team does kind of have issues with. So moving forward, this team has, in my opinion, a little bit more punch to it as opposed to like the stall aspect, and just seemed to be a better, revision of what I previously was looking for. So moving into the matches, the first run with this team, which is the sixth run overall, I got to round 5. There was a Manectric that connected 2 Thunders back to back, and I brought in Blastoise and Charizard, which I probably shouldn't have looking at hindsight. So that was probably a misplay there, but also hitting the Thunders back to back was lethal. Also, I'm looking at my notes, I made a mistake. I did a total of 11 runs, or 11 total matches. I just miscounted. So the next run, which was the 6th total, a Wailord hit a Fissure like right off rip, and we just destroyed. Yeah, oh my gosh, this was awful. So the Wailord hits the Fissure, and then we lose to back-to-back Sheer Coals, like literally back-to-back. That was unfortunate. So already this whole event with the starter Pokemon, we got that pretty much Wish Cash to hit a Fissure, and then 10 minutes later that fight hit another Fissure. And then we have this Wailord that hits the Fissure. We ended up winning that fight, but then the back-to-back Sheer Coals, that was pretty defeating. I was not having a fun time already up until that point, and then that just kind of set it off. Anyway, we bounced back. On the 7th total run, I only got the 5. I just a Snorlax with the Cursed Snorlax with Rest. It's just too lethal. I don't think the team really has a good answer for that. And then on run 8, we got the 5 again. So we got critted by something, and then the Don fan killed me. It's kind of unfortunate. So run 8 and 9, we only got the 5. So again, we did not get far. At this point, I've noticed kind of a trend or something that hurts this team, and that is Pokemon, let's say Lapras, Gyarados, and Starmie. There's probably other similar Pokemon, but Pokemon that are water types that know ice, water, or psychic moves, more specifically Starmie, but like Lapras and Starmie, if they got the spit build, they know all the combination of moves that can really be effective against this team, and our team doesn't have good answers for that. Sure, we got Giga Drain, let's say for Lapras, Gyarados, or Starmie, but it usually isn't enough. And then even the Thunder or the Hidden Power Electric on Blastoise, even against Gyarados, sometimes isn't enough. especially if the Gyarados is like dragon dancing or whatever. But the Gyarados that I guess is more potent is the one that's like the special attacking build. But basically water types that know Surf and Ice Beam, very powerful against this team, as we don't have a good answer for it. I made a note that at this point, the team didn't feel weak. Like it felt, each individual Pokemon felt pretty strong, but overall it didn't feel like, it just didn't feel good enough. And I don't know if it's more the way I was playing the team or the build itself. It just felt like there was more potential here to unlock that I wasn't seeing, or more success that I wasn't seeing. The last round, which was I think 11 total, I got to round 8, which was the highest. We actually got past some pretty powerful Pokemon like a Latios and some Reggies, and we were seeing a lot of Dragonites too. We unfortunately ended up losing because Blastoise missed on a Dragonite that had Bright Powder, and that actually lost us the game, because if we did more damage, we would have defeated that, and then the next Pokemon would have been easier to defeat. But that Ice Beam missing on that Dragonite lost us the match because the Bright Powder was pretty sad, but we got pretty far. Not to the gold, but overall we did pretty good. At the end of this match, I decided to debrief, kind of reassess what was going on and how the team overall was performing, and maybe if we needed something else. I wasn't able to pinpoint like a singular thing that the team was weak about. Obviously Starmie was a big problem, but we had answers to Starmie. Lapras was pretty annoying, and there were, again, some Pokemon, like even like Granbull, just really random Pokemon that knew a wide variety of different moves that were just annoying for the team. But overall, there weren't like a whole lot of issues or things that I was scared to face. It was more like I just felt like the team wasn't doing enough. And again, you could probably say it's because of the pilot or the trainer, or just maybe some of the EV spreads could have been a little bit better or fine-tuned. But after about like 11 matches, I just felt like I didn't have the success that the team probably deserved. So I think I should probably revisit this after everyone else kind of has their 2 cents on maybe the most optimal team between these Kanto starters. I think there's some room in the Blastoise and Charizard build, and I think for Venusaur maybe a little bit, but essentially I think a leech seeding one is probably the way to go. Maybe for the Battle Tower as well, there's probably some combination of Venusaur, Blastoise, and Charizard that allows for Charizard to set up that Dragon Dance a lot, I guess, more efficiently, while Venusaur kind of stalls and maybe sets up the Leech Seed, which kind of helps Charizard. Again, there's probably really a whole bunch of variations of things to consider for the tower, but at least for the Battle Dome, it seems like there are different things that should be considered when going into the Dome as opposed to these builds. As for the next following episodes, I would like to tackle Johto and then the Hoenn starters, and then maybe eventually go back and revisit these Pokemon or the Kanto starters. But for right now, I don't plan on revisiting these anytime soon, but I still would love to hear some input on maybe what I should have done or what you recommend trying out. But anyway, be sure to stick around for some more episodes and definitely check out some more on the channel. And be sure to leave some team recommendations down below in the comments. Take care everybody, and I'll see you in another episode.